all home was that music was the connection, for everybody, and as music is the connection. But anyway, great program, and I want to thank everybody for being here. I'm going to call the meeting to order. And today is December 15th, almost Santa Claus.
This meeting is being recorded.
Almost Santa Claus time. Call the meeting to order, and I want to welcome Vice Mayor Chin, who is on the committee, and thank Councilman Messenger for attending today. I don't know if we have Neil Livingston on. I don't know if Neil was able to attend or not. Appreciate the fact that we got this meeting together, and it is the holidays, and I thank all of you for coming. It's a holiday. I mean, that's just a holiday. All right, so. All right, we have a guest today, and I'd like to welcome Jim Gilmore, Jim from the Southern Group. Jim, come on up to the podium if you don't mind. And Jim, I think we have all known your name, connected with Jacksonville Beach and the redevelopment agency over there. And I think you're on their boards, and I think you live in Atlantic Beach.
I do.
But if you don't mind just giving us a little capsule of what you've done in the beaches area and perhaps even Jack's Beach.
I'd like to do that. I'd like to begin really by saying thank you for allowing me to come today, and to everyone here to talk about what the mission that was given to me to discuss with you and everyone else about how we bring tax dollars back to Neptune Beach, either one time or on a sustainable basis. And in that regard, I'd like to tell you a little bit about what I'm doing now. Elaine, you're correct. I've been involved in working in Jacksonville and this region for over 30 years. But several years ago, actually about 2.5, I took my company and merged it with the Southern Group. And I want to tell you a little bit about the Southern Group, if I may. It is the largest lobbying firm in the state of Florida. We have offices in Tallahassee, Tampa, Orlando, Miami-Dade, and Broward County in the Keys. That expanded the capacity for me, which what I like to do, which is economic development and redevelopment. And our Southern Group, when we talk about tax dollars, last year we were able to secure over $555 million to our clients, taking them back into their communities. And I think that's an important point to make as we talk about potentially working with you on various elements. What I've done here, 30 years. My love is redevelopment. I've been involved in the establishment of every redevelopment agent district in Jacksonville. Airport, 3 downtown, Arlington, Jack's Beach, and South Beach. And that is my joy. It's about creating opportunities to bring tax dollars, targeting it into the communities where there is slum and blight, to prevent it and to bring it back. And that's been something that I really, really enjoy. But economic development is also my passion. I've worked recently with FIS, their new world headquarters, and helped do that transaction. I worked with Vistacon and helped bring Johnson & Johnson here many, many years ago. Today, I'm actually working with a lot of public agencies. I represent the Jacksonville Transportation Authority on all of their elements, and in that regard, work with them on the local option gas tax, where we identified many, including money coming to the beach for Penman Road, and that's an exciting project. I work with the Aviation Authority in working to redevelop their assets that they have because they own a lot of land. I work with the Port Authority, and I work with the Port Authority as it relates to their elements, as it relates to the river, and bringing new business to the community as well. So let's talk about redevelopment just a minute. I've been involved in all of that, and as I've thought about ways and means to bring tax dollars back, I'm going to put on the table for you to consider a redevelopment agency for this area. That's a way to capture over a 40-year time frame the taxes that you pay to Jacksonville coming back to you to help pay for some of your needs. And I've talked to Jim French, and I've talked to the city manager, and I've seen your needs. The infrastructure needs in Neptune Beach are tremendous. They are just, it's almost mind-boggling as I've looked at the list. And that's a way to consider the sustainable ways and means to bring tax dollars back. But that's not the only way. We can talk to the state. Now, the federal dollars coming back for this go to the state and through the state. And I would also like to say, in talking to my partner in Tallahassee, she has said that Mr. French, some of you, city manager, She'd be glad for us to go to Tallahassee and have a direct meeting with the key people at DEP to talk about the opportunities, and that can be done sooner rather than later, whenever you would like to do that. And I thought that was a great offer on her part. She is a former DEP secretary, former FDOT secretary, and she knows Tallahassee and how to secure and at least point us in the right direction if we can. I don't throw COJ out of the list in participating aside from the redevelopment agency. The city of Jacksonville is the county government, and the county government has responsibilities above and beyond the services that they already provide. And seeing some of the needs that you have in the water treatment facilities, in fact that it serves more than Neptune Beach, it's an opportunity to talk to them about it. We're going through a great change in Jacksonville soon. We all know that next year. And this is a great opportunity to press our cases to COJ, the county government, of what we need here. So when I start talking about ways to bring tax dollars back, I'm thinking of these ways. Let's talk to the state and see what they can do for us. We know the Inflation Reduction Act money is going to go through the state and then come back to communities. That's one way. The second way is we start talking to COJ about ways and means to help us. And the third way you might want to consider is the establishment of a redevelopment agency to capture over a long period of time tax dollars that are currently paid to the city of Jacksonville. There's another ways and means. We introduced, not to the city manager some time ago, a private ways and means to finance infrastructure. It's called Sustainability Partners. I'm just saying it's an opportunity, I'm not pitching anything on this, but it's called Utility as a Service. And they could finance some of these needs, and then there would be a fee paid. Quite frankly, as we discussed, it's off-balance financing, but it's another private ways and means to do it that we explored. So it would be great to have the opportunity to work with you on these items, and be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Okay, great. And I'll start over here on my right with Councilman Messenger, and Councilman, go ahead, you have the floor.
Perfect. Jim, thanks for being here today. So one of the biggest things I think we need to be looking at is a consistent revenue stream that captures our tax dollars that we're already paying and keep them in Neptune Beach. So I know I've seen a lot online said about CRAs and how it's just more bureaucracy, but what it really does is capture our tax dollars that we're already paying and keeps them in Neptune Beach. So can you expand more on that? Can you expand more on
Sure.
what that might look like for Neptune Beach and how that's benefiting Jack's Beach, who has one to our south?
Sure. To establish a redevelopment agency, let me talk to you about what it is first. It's a ways and means, as you said, Counselor, to capture tax dollars that are being paid to all the taxing authorities that are here, which would include your own, but more importantly, the funds that you pay to Jacksonville. One goes through a process where you develop a plan, where you define the slum and blight that exists, and with the infrastructure needs, that's a check mark, we've got that. Then you develop a plan, and that plan has to be very specific. It has to talk about what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and how you're going to pay for it, because what's in the plan is what we have to do. That plan is developed with community input, and it's adopted by you, but here's the key, it also has to go to Jacksonville because they have to approve it. And that's an important part. But once that's in place for 40 years, you can capture all the money that's being paid to Jacksonville. Let me tell you how that works though. When it's established, the tax income and trust fund, the tax base that's existing is frozen. You would continue in the area to get the amount for the general government of Neptune Beach, all you were receiving, and Jacksonville will get all it was receiving. It's just as the increment grows in taxable value, that's what you get to capture. So when you're thinking about a redevelopment agency in this Neptune Beach, I would suggest let's make sure when we look at it, because we would have to do a financial analysis of it, that you're capturing where new development is going to occur, because that's the increase in tax base that you'll be able to use and capture to make things work. Jack's Beach, you asked, has been in place for a very, very long time. They recently extended all of their districts to take advantage of the full 40 years. I think it's going to expire up there in maybe 2037 or 2040 something. And they, as a result of the development there, they've been able to capture a lot of money. And as you know, their main mission was to take care of infrastructure. And for the first number of years, they completed almost all the sewer and water infrastructure needs that were in downtown Jacksonville Beach. And so it works. It works. Buy-in from the community, knowing what you're doing, developing a plan that talks about what you're gonna do and when you're gonna do it and how you're gonna do it.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Thank you, Mayor. I want to follow up on Councilor Messenger's question about the CRAs and especially in Jack's Beach. Typically, how long does the process take to go through the full approval process? Like if we started, as soon as possible in 2023?
8 months
8 months?
would be my guess. And I'm saying you've got a time for community input to develop a plan, do all the financial analysis, write it, put it together. You go through adoption, and then we have to take it to Jacksonville for approval as well.
Okay, so does that 8 months include the approval process from
Yes.
Jacksonville? Okay, all right.
And I would suggest that if this is going to happen and an avenue you want to take, we start talking to Jacksonville sooner rather than later.
I agree. Could you go into a little bit about the utility as a service? I'm just curious about that.
It's a private company, and they would come in and analyze your needs. They would see what it cost. They then would finance those improvements, and they would come up with a fee that you would pay so that they could recover their costs. They could be in charge of all operation and maintenance, whatever you would want. They can be taken out at any time with other grants that might come into play. And at the end of the day, it's all yours.
Okay, so that would in fact be perhaps a management consultant that would handle all our infrastructure needs, and then we would be paying them a fee.
That's correct.
Okay. All right, thank you very much.
Have they worked in the Jacksonville area before? Are they around here at all?
Their headquarters, the main person lives here at the beach. I don't know what they've done in this particular area. I know they're doing some work in South Florida right now. And they've done some work very similar to what your needs are to some other communities in the southeast. I do know that. But I'm not speaking for them. It's just something
I know,
to
something
engage
like
and
that.
talk to them about the ways and means, because it is an interesting ways and means to finance infrastructure.
We are under an interlocal agreement with the city of Jacksonville. And that interlocal agreement is what we're mostly unhappy with. We'd like to keep more of our tax dollars here. Would we have to open up the interlocal agreement in any way? Or is there some way that, especially with your firm and, what you've done in the area, that we could not do that but still accomplish the same thing?
In terms of the CRA, that doesn't have anything to do with the interlocal agreement
Okay.
at all. That's separate and aside from that. Now, I'm not a lawyer, so I'm going to be very cautious about what I'm about to say, but I'm going to say it. I happen to think that because Jacksonville is the county government, I'm going to get in trouble with a lot of this, if the county government wanted to invest in some of your infrastructure needs as the county government, particularly the water treatment plant, which is more than just Neptune Beach, then I think that is something they could do without opening the interlocal agreement. But please understand,
You're not a lawyer.
that's a legal question.
Right.
But that is what I thought, what I believe, and that's based on conversations with people who think the same thing.
Well, the reason that I brought it up is that we as a body have spoken in terms of the interlocal agreement and opening it up to keep more tax dollars here. And if we were looking at a CRA as opposed to doing that, that would be the balance that I think all of us would be considering. Because opening up the interlocal agreement would be expensive, and it'd be a long, adventure to go on with the city. So I'm just kind of doing that little comparison in my mind, and knowing that I feel as though the city of Jacksonville, our county government, as you said, really does owe us more because of our tax dollars and could participate more in our infrastructure improvements. That's kind of the way that I feel about the tax dollars that are going there. And I know that I've heard my colleagues say exactly the same thing. So, that wasn't a question. I know you're gonna look at me like, oh, is
No,
there a
I'm-
question here? The question in my mind, and that I was throwing out, is to avoid opening up the interlocal agreement, but accomplishing the same thing, making sure that we got more services and more dollars for our tax dollars that we send down to the county. Question, is this a good time to be looking at doing this with the city of Jacksonville? Do you think that, they're going through a new mayor, next March, I guess, we'll be looking at that and, just kind of a feel for, the
I think this
politics
is,
there.
I think this is a positive time to do it, because there is gonna be a change in administration. I mean, we could talk to the current administration, but there are 7 months left in their term, and, as appropriately so, are winding down and preparing for whomever might take charge, next July. But it's time to start talking and thinking about it with potential candidates, with potential people, with potential city councilmen, to see what support will be, and not what support will be, but how we develop support for what you want to do.
Right. Are you currently working with the city of Jacksonville Beach?
Yes.
Okay, and what is your role there now?
Well, our initial role was to come in there and to develop a communications plan, externally and internally, with the government, and to work to establish and for them to engage someone full-time to work on it. We also developed a public-private partnership policy. We developed a program for a new arts and public places program that's now being implemented. And now that the CRA coordinator is doing a great job, and our main role now is working with them and developers on public-private partnerships up there for new development projects.
And I think I saw in your bio, you go back quite a ways with Jacksonville Beach.
Oh, yes, I do.
Could you kind of tell us where you started with Jacksonville Beach? I thought that was very
Blush on that.
interesting.
Yes, I was, at one point in my life, I ran the Jacksonville Downtown Development Authority. And when I left that position, I was asked to come back and right the ship, if you will, with the Jacks Beach Redevelopment Agency. So I did that for 3 or 4 years, and just took the same love working in redevelopment and development through the rest of my career.
Oh, that's good, okay.
And in that regard, we established the South Beach redevelopment area, which was really if you may recall, it was all vacant land. It was an exciting project. Interestingly enough, because then that whole South Beach area had all been platted into small lots back in the 20s. And when the Depression came, owners scattered to the winds, and you couldn't assemble the land. And back at that point, you could use eminent domain to take the property. That legislature eliminated that sometime later, but we were able to assemble that land, because all of that, you couldn't do anything with it. And so that was the way that South Jacksonville Beach got developed.
They have a great tax base because of that.
Yes.
Yeah, they do. Thank you. All right, questions?
No, so with the CRA, Jim, and the timing, because I don't think the current administration would be as conducive to
Yeah.
seeing us have one. And I know over the years, they've basically put out, when feelers are put out, they've said, no, we're not, we won't approve that. But now that we have 3 candidates running for the office, we're all trying to cater the vote out here, and have been doing a lot of outreach at the beaches. I'm thinking that that's a big component weighing in on why the timing is right to go after this.
I would suggest that a government relations strategy to talk about what you want to do is a very important part of conversations to have with candidates.
Okay.
For candidates for mayor, but also candidates for the Jacksonville City Council.
And, okay, yeah. I have more thoughts on it, but I'll reserve those for now.
I do have one more question. I know it's hard to predict numbers, but just from historic figures in Northeast Florida, what would you say were general or average returns that a CRA could,
Counselor, that's something I wouldn't even want to project now. It would involve, which is looking at your tax base, looking and seeing how it's grown over the last 4 to 5, 6 years, and running some other projections based on that. And that also would involve an understanding of what development proposals you've got in the pipeline that could come online and at what point in time to see what revenue that would produce.
What happens in a situation where taxable values decrease?
That's a problem.
That's a problem.
Which is one reason why I always say when you're looking at establishing it, you need to very carefully understand and see where that taxable value is going to grow and increase. There's, in the Arlington one, for example, when we put that together, we knew that there was going to be tremendous development caused by Jacksonville University, which we knew would cause the taxable value to increase, and that has worked.
Okay, thank you.
All right, any further questions? Do you mind staying or?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going anywhere. Not till you
Yeah,
finish.
the public has some questions, if we're like.
You can do it afterwards, Pat, please don't interrupt
She
me
won't let
right now.
us, so do it now.
Mayor, Mayor,
Thank you so much,
we-
Jim, thank you.
we do have some questions, so I do want to,
Yeah, I do, and we have some questions that we'd like to certainly ask. Did you have some now for him? Because I was gonna ask you about the CRAs in other areas. And Jim, stay here.
yeah.
Good, good.
So, the question was asked about the utility as a service. We're still researching that, and so it's not ready yet to go fully to you until we've really done a deep dive into it. But on the face value, it looks promising, right, and interesting. But our chief financial officer did have a question. She was trying to get my attention through the poinsettias, so.
I didn't see your hand up, Danielle.
Vice
You have the floor.
Vice Mayor actually asked the question, I wanted to know if if the property values change, as they may be forecasting, how is that, written into the CRA? Is that something that, if it changes and we've received, X amount of dollars, is there a clawback or?
No, there's not a callback. We would look very carefully with you and those numbers to make sure we see what they are and what might happen. There's not a callback, no.
Okay, 'cause that would be a little worrisome. Thank you.
All right, Stephanie, do you have questions?
That was it.
Thank you. I had asked the city manager to look at other cities with CRAs, and I wonder if you could comment on that for me.
Yeah, Mayor, so, as I understood it, what you had asked me to look up were other cities that have lobbyists and lobbying firms.
And
And so,
I asked you that too.
yes, and so, aside from working with the Southern Group, Jacksonville Beach also works with a firm in Tallahassee. Now, what the Southern Group also has is, I think is it Rachel Cohn?
She's the one that I
Tallahassee.
mentioned, would be glad to establish a meeting with you and DP people, yes.
Wonderful. So, but they currently work with public affairs consultants out of Tallahassee as well. And then the city of Atlantic Beach also works with the Fiorentino Group in Tallahassee. So I know Atlantic Beach had tried to do a CRA, it didn't go anywhere, and Jacks Beach has 2 CRAs that I think have really helped with their infrastructure needs, and I would say is a large part as to why they're also debt-free. So.
Yeah, that's pretty important.
Yeah, I will say that the city of Fort Myers also works with a lobbying firm that has brought in lots of tax dollars from Tallahassee grants to help them, aside from what happened
They're
earlier
gonna
this
need
year.
a lot more.
Correct.
Sadly.
And I believe that firm was called Alcalde and Fay. And then Jacksonville recently had a lobbying firm that brought in for beach renourishment, I think it was $2.5 million to help with that, so.
Alcalde and Fay are primarily a federal
Federal.
lobbyist in Washington.
Okay. Question?
My comment is the same one I had a few months ago, that the timing is right with the administration terming out and 3 new front-running candidates. Also, we'll have a new president of Jacksonville city council, I think a lot of the people coming forward are very supportive of the beaches and of our area. And so to capture that and to, again, keep those tax dollars in Neptune Beach is the best way to grow our infrastructure and stay sustainable. Not raising taxes, but keeping the taxes we already pay here. So I'm very supportive of this effort, and I believe that life is timing, and to capture all this and try and get this when you have a new administration and the honeymoon phase and a new Jacksonville City Council president, I think the support would be there, and this is the right time to lock that in. Because in the past, we haven't had that support, but it looks like we would, so to not try and capture that, I think would be a huge misgiving on our part.
You make a really, really good point about the council members too and the incoming president, because Vice President Salem has been really supportive of the beaches. He's been active at the beaches and very supportive of those and stays in touch, which is, something that has been lacking in the past, but he's very, very good about that. And he'll be incoming president as, we think next year.
Presumptive.
That's correct, yeah, hopefully, yeah. I just wanna discuss with you guys that it's always good to hear from someone who has, made this kind of success happen at the beaches. And Jack's Beach has great, things to say about working with Jen and the Southern Group, which is really pretty cool. I would like to hear from you as to a next step, because to me, I'd like to, see a proposal, and I just would like for you guys to consider hearing this and going into next year with the almost unbelievable amount of competition in cities throughout Florida. Every city in Florida has got infrastructure problems. Every city, when you go to the League of Cities and you're talking about it's infrastructure dollars that cities are looking for. So the competition is off the charts, for that. And I think it will be and will continue to be. And so I feel as though we need, instead of just our application going in, that it would be, more to our benefit to have an extra layer, both on a city and state basis, to represent our needs, as we have prioritized what we have, and quite frankly, they're all high priorities. Everything that we have is a high priority. And the water treatment plant, of course, jumps out at us. But as we go forward, instead of just being another application in there for a grant or for the attention of our legislators, having someone that would speak individually to the chairman of the committees and to the individuals, and having our Duval delegation well aware as we can go over and speak to them. And they're expecting us, by the way. I think that would be a necessity, quite frankly. I think it would be a necessity. So I'd like to hear if you guys have any comments on that.
I think I tend to agree. We would be foolish to think that no other municipality has people fighting for their part of the pot of money. And I think that it could only help us to have someone advocating for us at those levels of government. Right now, we're locked in by the interlocal agreement, and I think that it's important for people to kind of get to reiterate for the people listening that the interlocal agreement has structured the percentage that we're getting from the county, and we're stuck at 18 cents on the dollar, and that's why we're talking about the CRA, because the CRA gives us a mechanism by which to have more of that tax dollars come back without trying to open up the interlocal and change that percentage distribution. So, I think that it is only prudent and smart for us to consider having our own advocate.
the vice mayor set up well. I think we need somebody to quarterback this effort, both from a CRA and the city of Jacksonville standpoint, and getting the buy-in from that entire council and getting a buy-in from the new administration. I'd also like to ask Jim, because I know it was discussed when we talked about a CRA about a year ago, staff brought a CRA concept forward, that you don't necessarily need to have a separate CRA board. You have to in the documents, but the council can operate as that board as well. So as to avoid additional bureaucracy or additional bodies. Can you speak to that, please?
Yes, you can stop, you have to have a community development agency, and it can be you and your body, or it can be a separate group. Jax Beach has a separate group, and in Jacksonville, the only group that is separate is downtown. There are redevelopment advisory boards at the airport and in Arlington, but the Jacksonville City Council is the redevelopment agency for all the CRAs in Duval County with the exception of downtown. So yes, that can be you if you move that way.
Okay, so I want to be clear as to what this meeting is. This is exploring, this is discussing. We're not making any decisions here. I would like to see a next step, which would be a proposal. And city manager, you know, would you kind of guide us as to, because next year is when the entire city council would come forward, and I'd certainly like for them to be a part of further discussions, et cetera.
Yeah, Mayor, so I've spoken with Zach about this, and he said procuring a consulting firm, a lobbying firm like this would be similar to the way that you procured his firm as city attorney. So we could go that same route if that's how you'd like to go. But I think first we'd like to see a proposal from the Southern Group and get that in front of you. I think, Jim, you could have something pretty quick for us, right? And I could include that within my report or as a separate item on our upcoming agenda for the first meeting in January.
Excellent, excellent. Well, it certainly is worth discussing, it's worth considering. And as always, you know, it would be an investment by the city to get a good return on our investment. And it will be a good discussion for the first of the year when the entire city council is together. All right, any further questions to city manager or Mr. Gilmore and the Southern Group?
I did put Jim on the spot by saying he can have a proposal by the 3rd, but if that doesn't.
Shortly
Okay. Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Thanks for
That
being
week.
here.
Okay.
Thanks for being here, and really appreciate you going back with all of the things you've done at the beaches, which is important for us because you know what the infrastructure problems have been in other cities, and you live in Atlantic Beach. I think you know that they're going through some very similar things as we are too. So, you know, this is important that you do understand it, that your company does too. So thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I had the pleasure of attending the organizational meeting for the Duval delegation and just said hi to the delegates and congratulated Senator Duggan on, you know, him becoming chairman and meeting some of the new both representatives and senators. And Clay Arbo has always been a friend to us. I'll be honest with you, he's always been receptive. And we've sent a letter from the city with all of us saying congratulations to them and making sure that they know we'll be coming over to see them, and that we'll be asking them for some attention for Neptune Beach. And what I wanted to just say today, item number 3 says discussion of the priority projects. We've done that. We have discussed that. What I was saying is that we now need to get it in the form of a handout for us doing some discussions with, you know, Tallahassee and with the city of Jacksonville. And that would be kind of the way that I'd like to position us, to have something, you know, it doesn't have to be very big and too many words, you know, is not good because we can explain our needs. But I'd love to do something that is a printed piece that is our legislative priorities and be able to have that as leave behind whenever we are talking to even the representative, even the candidates that are looking to become, city council members in Jacksonville and running for mayor. And I think it's good that they know who we are and what our needs are. So that's what I wanted us to, and anyone that has anything to add to that, we have a guy here that certainly knows how to lay out a great, I'm not asking you to do that, but making sure that as we move forward, we have something that captures their attention and succinctly says what our needs are. No. Any comments? No?
You said it well.
Okay, all right, city manager, I think that is all that we have. Is there anything else that you and I have discussed, or
There was,
you attended the legislative meeting too? I don't know if you.
it was interesting to see all of our Duval delegation up at once. So I think there's gonna be a good group, and I'm certain we can engage them pretty well. So I did have one thing I wanted to follow up with you on. You did ask for some changes to be made to our CIP ranking list, some additional information, so we provided that. And so that's what's in front of you right now. The green is for sanitary, sewer, and the blue is for drinking water. But we've also added different categories that you had asked for, like if there was an FDEP grant, different funding mechanisms, how you would, supplemental revenue that we would use to help offset some of those costs. So you can see ARPA funding, and then we were awarded close to a $450,000 grant with St. John's River Water Management District for that wastewater treatment plant project. So I just wanted to follow up and show that is done.
Thank you. Anything else from you?
That's all I
Thank
have.
you, and thank you for going downtown and for providing this and doing a little bit of research. I appreciate that.
Absolutely.
All right, and I'm gonna go, and item number 4 is actually gonna be public comment. And do we have anyone?
Yes, Chuck McHugh.
Chuck, come on up.